And I want you to see your launches as a part of your business's ecosystem. They are a part of how you run your business. They add excitement, they add fuel, and really, launch is just a word. You're listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. I'm your host, Jill Perrick, a business and mindset coach who specializes in imposter syndrome. If you feel like you're not as smart, capable, or worthy as you actually are, and that someone is going to find you out, then you've come to the right place. I went from being a struggling government worker, working my coaching business on the side, but feeling unworthy and burnt out, to making multiple six figures helping women overcome imposter syndrome so they too can sign clients, make bank, and have the business or career of their dreams. I am nothing special. I have a stuttering disability, ADHD, and I struggle with anxiety and depression. So if I can learn how to feel good enough and overcome my inner imposter, then so can you. Let's dig in. Hi friends, welcome back to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. So happy to have you here in May. You guys, I go to Miami at the end of this month for my bachelorette, which is so exciting, and it's actually so surreal that it's coming up. I'm not one of those little girls that ever dreamed of their fucking wedding, but when I was little, I definitely thought about when I'd be getting married, and I just thought that I would feel more mature, like an adult, and I genuinely feel so young even though I am 32. And don't get me wrong, 32 is young, but I think it's funny because we always think that our parents or adults have it figured out, and then you get to that age and you're like, yeah, they actually had no fucking idea what they were doing either. I just think it's so funny. So that is very exciting that is coming up for me, and today's episode we are diving into launch stuff, how to launch through your imposter syndrome and the fear of your launch flopping, right? I'm so excited to share this wisdom with you because I have launched so many fucking times since starting my business. In 2020, I think I launched every single month, which is wild, right? 12 times a year, wild. And now the way that the online space is, there's a lot of consistent selling over launching, but that doesn't mean launching is dead, you guys. It's just different, and it really has to vibe with you and your business and how you like to do things. And this is why I created the Perfect Launch Vault, which is going to give you the mindset, the energetics, and the strategy behind your perfect launch. This is my launch course that is going to support you from pre-launch to post-launch in cultivating an abundant and resilient mindset throughout your entire launch, and strategies that you'll use for your launch so it never feels boring to you. There is so much fear around launching in the online space and thinking that it's such hard work, but what really the problem is your attitude about the launch and what so many of us call launch brain, which is just when your mind goes to the worst case scenarios because your cart is open. And in the Perfect Launch Vault, we're going to cover everything from what to do during the pre-launch to how to set your launch goal to everything in between. And it's just going to be so amazing, you guys. And my girlies in the From Imposter to Empowered program, the Fraud Squad Mastermind, and my one-to-one clients are, of course, going to get access to the launch course for free when you are in one of those programs. So don't you worry. But for those of you who are not one of my clients, the Perfect Launch Vault will be on sale for $333 or two payments of $188 from next Monday, May 6th to Friday, May 10th. So just for 5 days. And like I said, my loves inside of the From Imposter to Empowered program, my mastermind, the Fraud Squad, and my one-to-one clients, of course, you get access to the Perfect Launch Vault inside all of your programs as soon as it launches, okay? I'm so fucking excited for that to drop next week. I've worked so hard on it. You're gonna love it. So let's get into today's episode on how to launch through fear, through imposter syndrome, through these mindset blocks and emotions that are gonna come up around launching. So let me tell you a story first. In 2020, around the time where I first launched the From Imposter to Empowered program, actually, I had a waitlist strategy and I signed about 8 clients into that program. But around this time, and for those of you who are really familiar with me in the podcast, you'll know that in 2020, my family's childhood home burnt down in October on Halloween night. It was very traumatic. And that was during a time when I was working full time and there were a lot of things happening. And I was just so used to powering through things that I actually ended up going through with my From Imposter to Empowered launch, going fully through with it, even though I had a wait list and I had signed about 8 clients from the wait list, I still wanted to continue with the launch because I had created content and I had been talking about doing the public launch for this specific program. So I took 1 week off after the house burned down and we had to do cleanup. At that time, we didn't know that our cat who was in the house, that he had passed away. We thought he had run out the back door and we were looking for him. So there was a lot happening with my family at that time. I took 1 week off and then proceeded to go back to work at my full-time job. And then I continued to launch the From Imposter to Empowered program. And during this time, I was working from home for my full-time job, but I was also devoting every waking second outside of that job to my business because that was the year that I quantum leapt from $12,000 in 2019 to $130,000 in 2020. So I had made a lot of money in 2020, especially because I was able to work from home for my full-time job. However, I was actually interviewing for a permanent position in the unit that I was currently working in my full-time job, and I had gotten it even when my family's house had burned down. Like, it was fucking insane. And my interview was supposed to be the week that the house burned down, but they decided to give me an extra week and I actually ended up getting the job. So on top of all of this, my sister had to come live with me because at the time she was living at home with our parents and she didn't have anywhere to go because they had to go into my grandparents' basement and it was just a fucking mess, you guys. So there was so much happening to give you all of the context there. There was even more that happened after that, but for the sake of the story, I won't go into all of that. And there was a lot going on. I decided to publicly launch the From Imposter to Empowered program, and nobody joined during the public launch. I think I launched for like 2 weeks. Nobody joined, nobody reached out, nothing. And I personally have never not continued to sell and show up and give it my all during a launch because of the way that I think people in the online space used to be like, you know, like I see a lot of really entitled entrepreneurs coming into the space now being like, I want to be successful 2 seconds into growing the business, but you have to have an audience and you have to be growing your audience. You have to have recognition of your offer and your brand. And even so, even though I had already tapped into the clients that were a good fit for the offer, had them all inside, when I publicly launched the offer, it didn't do as well. I didn't sign one client during the public launch. So what did I do? That public launch was a huge flop. And at the end of the launch, I was in my robe, in my Your Coach Jill robe, and I was sitting at the kitchen table eating Nutella on toast. This is extremely specific to me. I love Nutella and bananas on toast, and now I'm craving it. And I actually went live at that time, sitting at my kitchen table to talk about my flopped launch, even though it technically wasn't a flop because I had signed 8 people during the waitlist phase. But I had also put a lot of work into the forward-facing public launch and did not garner any response. But from that live, where I was honest about my flopped launch, where I talked about how there was a lot going on for me and I shouldn't have launched because I should have listened to my emotional cues, etc., from that launch, I was at the gym later and I distinctly remember working out and got a DM from somebody who had seen that live. And she was like, that was so inspiring. I'm currently in a place where I ghosted a waitlist for a program and I just really need something like the From Imposter to Empowered program. So she ended up signing into it. So I ended up signing an extra person from that launch, even after the launch was over. And this client actually ended up turning into a one-to-one client. And if I were to add up the lifetime sales from this client, it is around $24,000. And something that I really want you to take away from this is the fact that your launches are doing so much more than just launching that offer that you're selling. When you launch an offer, when you commit to consistently selling an offer for a certain amount of time, when you're so forward about the offer itself and how it can help your audience, you are not just selling that offer. You are creating brand recognition. You are creating offer recognition. You are establishing yourself in the space and you're setting yourself up for results later down the line, whether you feel like it or not. Me being vulnerable on that Instagram live created $24,000 of my lifetime income. And she was an amazing client. We had such an amazing journey together and she was in my audience and in my world before that. But something about me being vulnerable about my launch really helped her see that things like this could happen for her. And she created over $100,000 during our time together, which really was like less than a year, like nearly a year. And she created $100,000 in that time. So she created 6 figures of income. She was on the verge of like literally needing to get a job before she came to work with me. And she created 6 figures in income. It's amazing, right? She had so many successful launches during our time together. She felt so good in her body and in her business. And it was an amazing coach and client relationship. And that's what I want you to take away from that story, is the fact that you do not realize the seeds that you're planting when you launch. Even if nobody were to join your launch, which I want to be real with you guys, like that is a possibility, but I don't want that to scare you. I don't want that to scare you at all, because I've had flop launches before and they've always taught me something. And I've learned to not make it mean anything about where I'm going or the income that's going to come in, because I know that there is so much more to a launch than just what you see to the naked eye. Right? Like you're establishing yourself in the online space with that offer and with that message every time you launch something. You are bringing in potential income, even if it's not directly through that offer, right? Like if somebody is seeing you sell and they really are enjoying how you're selling, or they start doing like a deep dive in your free content and they actually ended up being in your mastermind or being a one-to-one client, whatever it is, your launch is creating additional income for you, even if they don't purchase your $333 course, right? Like, do you see what I'm saying here? Launching is so much more than just, here's my offer. This is the offer that I'm selling. You need to purchase it. And if nobody purchases it, then it's a flop, right? Like, it's so much more than that. And I want you to see your launches as a part of your business's ecosystem. They are a part of how you run your business. They add excitement, they add fuel, and really, launch is just a word. Having a launch, being in a launch is just a state, it's a feeling. And there have been so many times where I've been in launch mode and with launch brain, and being like this feels difficult. Like I feel frustrated if nobody's buying like every single second, because there's something just about having an open cart that can cause you to like completely lose your fucking mind. But this is why we have tools. This is why we have the mindset tools. This is why we have the emotional regulation tools. And that's why those are such huge components inside of the Perfect Launch Vault, and why they're inside of all of my programs. Because if you can't handle your emotions, if you can't handle yourself during a launch, you are most likely going to end it early or drop off or make it mean something about you and your success if people aren't signing up every single second of the launch. The way that I would actually describe the act of launching is like desensitizing yourself to the act of selling your offer consistently. So yes, is there more work that goes into a scheduled launch? Of course, but when you're used to selling your offer, when you're used to being able to manage your mind around your launch, selling and launching does not actually feel exhausting. And I saw somebody, I think it was Steph from It's Exo NG, and she said something like, selling isn't exhausting, your attachment to the outcome is exhausting. And I completely agree, right? The same thing goes for your launch. Because like I said, your launches are a part of your business's ecosystem. When you come in the From Imposter to Empowered program, which is my group program for coaches and online service providers who are bringing in like 0 to 3K a month, and they're working towards bringing in 5K a month, we usually have a high ticket offer that you're selling, and launching isn't the highest priority, because selling consistently and selling your offer on a more regular basis is what's important. And this is kind of like having consistent launches all the time because of the way that you're selling your offer, right? You're selling it consistently. It's a skill that you have to acquire. Like learning how to sell your offer in different ways, learning how to be on when you do sell your offer, learning how to depersonalize your offer from your mood, from your emotions, from what's going on in your personal life. Because the issue that a lot of entrepreneurs have in the online space is that they'll be having a bad day or a bad emotion, and they'll turn it into, nobody wants my offer. I'm not good enough. This means I can't show up and sell. And that is very different than when you need to emotionally regulate, and when you need to rest, and when you need to recharge. And that is something that I really want to drive home in the Perfect Launch Vault, is the fact that like the difference between just needing to recharge your batteries and giving up on your entire launch. It's so easy to turn your emotions into, this means I'm not good enough. This means nobody wants to join my offer. And you guys have heard me say this before, but it's not about you. It was never about you. It's not about your worthiness. It's not about how good you are at your job. There are people that want your offer, and there are people that need your offer, but people need to see your offer more than a couple of times for them to decide to want to work with you. especially when it comes to selling an offer that's high ticket. You want to be able to hit on all aspects of the offer because these people that are coming in to work with you, you want them to be a perfect fit. You want them to really appreciate the work that is going into your offer, especially if you're somebody who is a coach or a service provider who has a retainer or you're working directly with these people. Now, when it comes to selling courses and stuff like that, that isn't always the case. And depending on how your offer is priced, there's not as much decision making that your potential client needs to do when it is something that is lower ticket. However, regardless, I really want to drive home here that getting a handle on your emotions outside of your business will be the greatest thing that you will ever do for yourself. Something like that I know is when I wake up from a nap or something, I'm in a bad mood. If I wake up from a nap or from a long sleep, I need to decompress, sit on the couch, read for a little bit, do my things I need to do before I can get into the energy of, okay, I'm a bad bitch CEO. I'm great at what I do. I love my business. And I don't feel that way the second I wake up in the morning or right after I need a nap. So I really do need that time to get into that energy. The same thing goes for the business. If I'm having an off day, or I know that I just woke up, or if I'm coming off a scenario in my personal life where I don't feel great, I don't make it mean anything about my business. I don't make it mean that I'm not going to be successful. I don't make it mean that things aren't going to work out for me. I don't make it mean that now that I'm in this mood, I'm going to manifest all of these terrible things inside of my business. And when you're in a launch, this is so important to remember because this could be the difference between you signing 10 people and signing 0. Is that at any point in the launch, getting off the emotional roller coaster and making it not mean anything about you and your business and your success. There have been times where I've done launches and I've literally signed everybody that I needed to sign that program in the last 2 days. There have been times where I've launched where nobody has joined and then I signed a ton of different people before the actual program starts. There have been times where I've launched and people have joined in the beginning of the launch and then I don't sign anyone else during the end of the launch. Every launch has its own personality, and the important thing here is that you always keep going. Not everybody will talk about this in the online space. You'll hear a lot of really successful launching stories, and you will hear like, I signed this client and I did this, and that's amazing. Don't get me wrong. I've had a lot of really successful launches as well, but I want to normalize the fact that there is probably going to be a reality where you're not satisfied with your launch results, especially if you're an overachiever. Like I attract a lot of clients who are really hard workers. They're overachievers. They're always like the top of their class, kind of like they're always trying to achieve the most. And that also means that they're really hard on themselves, even when they get great results. So you may have had an idea of what you wanted to do in your launch and you hit that or you hit right under that, and for some reason it still doesn't feel great even after you send the clients into that offer, but celebrate it anyways. It's a huge accomplishment that you are putting yourself out there, you're being seen, you're being perceived, and you're putting your offer and your work into the world for somebody to use. That in itself is a massive fucking accomplishment, and I want you to see launching again as just a part of your journey in your business. It's just a strategy. It is just a strategy. Like every launch has its own personality, like I said, and it is a way to build brand and offer recognition. It is a way for you to establish yourself and that you have something to offer somebody and that you're dead fucking serious about growing your business and about being somebody in the space who has a legitimate business. I want you to take away that heavy connotation associated to launching. I want you to stop being lazy when it comes to planning out your launches and deciding what you're going to do and giving up before you've even started because you think, I don't have the audience, I don't have the people, blah, 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 blah. But this is literally how you create your audience, how you create your brand and offer recognition. And it's through strategies such as launching. It is all a part of the journey. No launch is just a standalone thing. It's a part of your business. And the best thing you can do for yourself in the future of your business and the money that's on its way to you, the abundance that's on its way to you, is for you to not make any launches that you'll have now or in the future, or even the ones that you've had in the past, mean anything about who you are or how successful you can be. Okay, I've talked about this before, but it's literally just a blip in the timeline when you have a flopped launch or when you have like a low income month, right? I have definitely had flopped launches within the last couple of years, but you would never know because I've still made $600,000 in my coaching business, right? And that's because I see a launch as like something that I do in the business. It's not a standalone thing. So let this be your permission slip. Let this be what you need to hear to launch your fucking offer, because it's not that people don't want to work with you. It's not that people don't want your offer. It's that you have not committed to selling the offer in a way that says, everybody fucking wants this and everybody wants to fucking work with me. That is the energy you need to bring to your launches, and that is the energy that you're going to bring to your launches when you purchase the Perfect Launch Vault, which is coming next week, and it's going to be the mindset, the energetics, and the strategy behind your perfect launch, so you can be fully supported every time you sell your offers, and so you can feel really confident in that offer that you're selling. There's going to be strategies for pre-sale, and there's going to be support for during your launch and after your launch, and I'm just so excited for you to get your hands on it for only $333 or 2 payments of $188, and that is the sale price for next Monday, May 6th to Friday, May 10th, and then the price will increase after that launch. Okay? I love you guys. I hope you love this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Come over to Instagram and say hi at Your Coach Jill. I will see you guys next week. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the From Imposter to Empowered podcast. Head to the show notes to learn how you can work with me, where you can buy my best-selling book, You're Not Special, and how to get on my email list for free. Screenshot this episode and add it to your Instagram stories, tagging me at Your Coach Jill. See you next time.